The product categorically is used in over I have people calling me from America. I have people calling me from Russia. I have people calling me from Europe, different parts of Europe, on this particular product. This is the first phytomedicine that has been developed, that has moved from drug development to phase 2 clinical trials, published in peer-reviewed journals. Take it to the bank anywhere. Previously, at the time this article was written, because it says 1998, right? It was referring to the intervention in 1998. At the time that intervention was made, the institute partnered with a foreign organization to market Niprisan. So that marketing partnership is what fell apart. And it was as a result of that marketing partnership that fell apart that the current administration gave a mandate for NIPRD to partner with a local manufacturer. Okay. So if you go on your archives, you will see that previously that particular product had a partner that was based in the US. But the current partner that we have is May & Baker, who is based in Nigeria. And if you see the name that is written there, you will see it's Niprisan. Can you see the new name of the product? Niclovix. So this is actually an improvement. I mean, I'm not saying we're not fallible. You know, where we had gaps, those gaps were noted and government made processes to address those gaps by working with a local manufacturer to address the weaknesses that were seen. We have more than this. I will take your chaps round a whole array of what we're producing. So when you say no, they are.
Most Nigerians are not aware.
I am stopped every time I travel. People come to me, either at the airport, even on the street, to say, Dr. Adigwe, thank you for what you're doing for this country. Nigerians are aware. I told you we went to how many states of the Federation? For the first time, this organization has been existing for over 30 years. In the past 18 months, we have gone round the country and trained over 1,000 herbal medicinal practitioners. One of the weaknesses we identified when I was appointed was the need for us to partner more with industry. Incidentally, prior to my appointment as the Director General of NIPRD, I was the Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. And I can tell you categorically that based on an intervention by my board chair, we have begun a more robust partnership with the industry. As I'm speaking with you, the PMGMAN as a body has given NIPRD an endowment of 50 million for the first time in the history of Nigeria, with 20% of that paid up, for us to develop products for that particular group. It is unprecedented. It is unprecedented. This was the event where that endowment was made. So increasingly, a lot of those gaps have been recognized, and increasingly we're working towards addressing them. Just a few weeks ago, we held a joint webinar on how we can harness the ongoing discussions for patent waivers for local vaccines manufacturing. And the keynote address speaker of that webinar, which was attended by 2 ministers and close to 10 officials from the presidency, was a past chairman of PMGMAN. So there is ongoing robust engagement for us to bridge that gap that has existed between research and development and the industry. I mean, I'm not saying we're at Uhuru yet. We're not at Uhuru. But like you rightly said, For an organization that has existed for 3 decades, we need to move quicker. I can assure you that what we've done in the past 2 to 3 years has gone a significant way in trying to address those gaps.
Okay.
In terms of vaccines, R&D and vaccines manufacturing, nobody has the kind of capacity that we have in NIPRD. Most other players
in Africa?
Yes, in Africa.
Okay.
Yes, in Africa. Most other players are either aggregated at the downstream or aggregated at the upstream. We're the first player that is looking both at the downstream and the upstream at the same time, right? We've had not less than 3 international, let me say we've had not less than 3 international entities whose vaccines are either at phase 3 or phase 4 clinical trials visit this institute to discuss partnership. Visit this institute to discuss partnership. So that's why I say we're looking both at the R&D, which will bring up the innovations in the vaccines, but also how you can get those innovations in vaccines to the man on the street. Because it is one thing to develop the vaccines. It is another thing to manufacture them in the quantity and in the format which it will be ready for use by Africans. And we're the only one that is looking at that entire continuum at the same time currently in Africa. We're having very high-level discussions. Like I said, I mean, you're an investigative journalist, so go online and check. I would not want to advertise some of our partnerships, but if you go online and you're very careful to search in English, in Spanish, and in French, you identify some world-class vaccine manufacturers that have visited. No, you have to earn your salary. You're an investigative journalist. So we've visited the institute to look at the viability of partnering with us. Let me make it easier for you. The Russians and the Cubans have been to the institute. The British have also engaged us. When you were here in 2019, what was the power scenario when you were here?
Outside, this place was not even painted.
You said it's slight changes.
That's why I said probably when you came on board.
We're saying the same thing. We are saying exactly the same thing. And it will surprise you to know that majority of the changes that you've noticed from the day I was appointed, right, and today, I inherited, in fact, I would charge you to go and look at an interview that your colleague did. That was the first interview I granted. Deputy Director, you facilitated that interview with Premium Times. The way they described this institute was moribund. That's the word that they used. You cannot in good conscience come in here today and say this place is moribund. I inherited 7 dilapidated buildings. 7. All 7 are now refurbished and are good to go. When you came here the last time, less than 2% of my staff had official IT devices, right, to do their work. As I speak with you today, all confirmed NIPRD staff have received an official IT device for their work. When you came here, the newest equipment we had in 2018 was probably about 5 or 6 years old. As I speak with you, between 2018 and now, this institute has received close to 100 new pieces of equipment. When you came here in 2018, we had not at the time you came in 2018, we didn't have even one product that had NAFDAC certification. We have trebled that number, and we have about 15 to 20 in development. And guess what, my brother? Majority of the interventions I've mentioned to you was done by increased government funding. Was done by increased government funding. So, contrary to what a lot of people believe, the entity that has supported pharmaceutical research and development the most since I got here is actually government. The people who have not are philanthropists and development partners. And all over the world, research and development is not left for government alone. In America, when COVID hit America, despite how rich America was, that woman called Dolly Parton, a country musician, donated millions of dollars of her personal money for COVID research. There are Nigerian musicians that are billionaires. How much have they given for COVID research? All over the world, you hear about lotteries, lottery organizations, Lotto. And we have Lotto billionaires in Nigeria. You have oil billionaires in Nigeria. We've written them. They haven't contributed to pharmaceutical research and development.
From the public.
Let me tell you what, I've forgotten his name, as a senior special advisor to the vice president that gave the best criticism. He said that Nigerians, I'm paraphrasing, that Nigerians only seem to bring out money when it comes to buying Indomie and building, what do you call it? What do you call that center? Isolation centers. That where they are meant to actually put money is in research. If you put 10 naira in Indomie or isolation center, it remains 10 naira. If you put 10 naira in research and development, that 10 naira becomes 100 naira. You of all people should know. And this is the argument we have been making. We have written the same proposals that we have written to Nigerian philanthropic organizations is the same proposals that has earned us attention and funding from international partners. So you can't tell me it is the quality of our proposals. If it is the quality of our personnel, we are the first of our kind to get both the ISO 9001 and the ISO 17025. And I already told you, we are one of the most resourced agencies of our kind. We have proof of concepts. But I can't go into these people's money and bring you see this product. Some of the most important men in Nigeria come to this institute for this product for their children. This product came out of putting money in R&D. So if you cannot explain to people why they need to support pharmaceutical R&D, I don't know what else to do. But that statement is actually the opposite of what actually exists. Currently, it is government that has put money in pharmaceutical R&D, and where there is a huge gap, I don't like to use the word huge, but I will use it in this instance, where there is a huge gap is support and funding from philanthropists and development partners. The guys you're calling, right?
Yeah.
USAID is a development arm of the United States government. Abi? Is he a development arm of the Nigerian government? No. And you were there when it got to COVID, right? These so-called developed countries started scrambling for vaccines that are produced within their borders. Some of them even banned the export of APIs, life-saving APIs to other countries. Do these people actually have your well-being in mind? That is a question for all Nigerians. You that you're waiting for American organizations, British organizations, Indian and Chinese organizations to fund NIPRD, so that NIPRD will use plants from your backyard and develop phytomedicines that will be used to treat your children and your parents. Does it sound like sound logic? Does it sound like sound logic? Unless we are able to recalibrate how we think in this part of the world, we're not making progress. You cannot abdicate the responsibility for funding your own development to an external partner. That's the truth. There are parts of the world where people have someone whose father died of prostate cancer would leave his entire wealth to prostate cancer research. Do you understand? People leave endowments when they die. I agree that government has a role. Government's biggest role, right, is to indicate the policy direction, right? And this government has done so. When the COVID organics preparation came, they said we will not use it unless NIPRD does the research and development. That is a policy direction. When they, looked at the hand sanitizer that was done using locally sourced materials, they called us and launched it on TV and asked us to share our formula, because they know that if we start producing this within Nigeria instead of importing from China and India, we will employ more people and have higher quality sanitizers. That is a policy direction. Let us stop this attitude of leaving everything for government. I've just given you an example with Dolly Parton. Are you aware that you're more qualified than Dolly Parton? Probably has a secondary school degree. And a lot of the billionaires in Nigeria are graduates with PhDs. Ask them how much they've given for pharmaceutical R&D. That's why I'm thanking you for your platform. And that's why I was pointing directly at them. Is part of that persuasion. It is for all our good. I can tell you categorically that in terms of providing high-value information for COVID-19, I don't think there are up to 3 organizations that have done more than we have done. First of all is our science. A scientist, his job is to be in the laboratory, bringing out world-class products. His job is not to sit in front of the television telling you about the world-class products. But we took a strategic decision, my board, and I tell you another secret, I'm actually I'm a painfully private person. If you've seen me on TV, it is a very painful decision for me. I'm not a public person, I'm a very private person. My board gave me a directive and said, you must go out and let the world know what NIPRD is doing for COVID-19. Okay? And we took it upon ourselves for every intervention that we have in this agency, that we went out to inform Nigerians. That was the gold standard in fighting misinformation. Because we did not copy and paste what we're telling people. We were telling people what came from our laboratories. There is no higher activity to combat misinformation than what we did. Consistently, on different fora, we've spoken about vaccines, we've spoken about phytomedicines. Like I told you, go and check what we said about COVID organics. Do you know what it is for something to go viral in English and in French? Do you get where I'm coming from? These are all activities. evidence-based activities that fought misinformation. And we keep doing it. Look at me now, sitting in my office, sweating under your bright lights. I'm fighting misinformation. I was actually the first person to undertake an Ebola KAP study during the last outbreak in Nigeria. And that's how I know the power of communication. You see, I was telling my media friends that when there was a lockdown and they allowed healthcare professionals move around, but they didn't allow journalists at the first instance. I was one of the few people that fought against it. Because no matter how beautiful or how elegant your product is, if people do not know about it, what you've done is intellectual masturbation. So I actually appreciate the fellowship that your sector has with my sector. And that's why, despite the fact that I am personally uncomfortable to speak publicly, I will always make myself available to update Nigerians through your platform. I thank you.
Okay. Lastly, are we looking at time frame for this to become a vaccine?
Well, this can't become a vaccine. It can become a phytomedicine. But you can't, with research, you can't put time frames, unfortunately. Because sometimes you are looking at a particular line of intervention and you have maybe 30 mice in your cohort for that pharmacological or toxicological study, okay? If you're looking at a 28-day study and one of the mice dies of some other extraneous intervention, you have to start again. These are the kind of things that we undergo in the scientific community. So we can't really give you time frames. What we can tell you is that please put Deputy Director, put him in our Rolodex so that anytime we have breaking news or things to report, we will let you know. Like I said, my board has mandated that any intervention that we make, we always inform people, and you will be updated once we have a breakthrough. Absolutely.
The NIPRD will someday come up with a vaccine.
With the phytomedicine, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
A privilege talking to you, having this conversation.
I'm also very grateful for your fellowship. Thank you very much. Yeah.